Welcome to the channel. For the first time, we have V Ken Marion, a well-known comic book artist. Mostly worked for DC, done some Aspen work. A big fan of your work for a long time, Ken.
Oh, thanks, Wes. Thanks you so much for having me on. I'm really appreciate the chance to be here and chat with you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
So it's always V Ken Marion. What is his first name? This must be like this great mystery within comic books. And we were talking before we started recording, and your first name is V.
Yes, it's like literally the letter V. My grandpa's name was Vincent, and his nickname was V. So my dad thought it would be a cool thing to name me V, and then Ken be my middle name. So that's why there's not supposed to be a period after the V. So sometimes like they credit me as a V period. That's wrong. Like, so whenever my dad sees it, he always calls me. He's like, "Tell them to change this." I'm like, I don't think I can change it. It's printed. Like, you know what I mean? So, well, I'll save it for next time. You know.
So your dad's been a fan of yours for a long time. Was he somebody that helped you, enjoy comic books or discover your love of comic art?
Yeah, absolutely. He was like a big Superman fan when I was growing up, and Superman's like the character that got me into all this. You know, it was like Superman the movie was huge. Like my dad loved that movie, and he loved the George Reeves TV show. So those things when I was like super young. Was hugely influential to me, and my dad would always he would go on work trips lots, and he would always bring back those in the early 90s they had DC and Marvel action figures. They're just called DC superheroes and Marvel superheroes, and so like when he'd go on work trips, he'd always bring back like one of those action figures for me. So that's kind of how I got to know all these characters, was like through the action figures. Like I didn't actually get into the comics until like I was a little older, like till I was like middle school and high school.
Very cool. I didn't get into comic books until I was in my 30s. But I'd had people bugging me about them for a long time. You know, there's lots of comic book fans in the military. And you probably don't realize that. And they're always like, "Why don't you want to read this?"
Well, it's funny. We will get to it later, but my writing partner on the book that I'm working on right now, he was in the Air Force actually, and him and a lot of his friends in the Air Force were really into comics and hero clicks and all that kind of stuff. So I very much know that it's a big thing in the military to like comic books, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, so Superman was your entry point. Do you have a favorite Superman story?
Yeah, my favorite. Okay, so I mean, now as an adult, since I read it like in college. It was Superman Birthright. That's like my absolute favorite. Like with Mark Waid and Len Liu. Like Len Liu's art is like amazing, and like to me, it was such a cool like anime-ish kind of take on Superman, but it was like a modern kind of retelling that kind of felt a little bit like Smallville and kind of felt a little bit like the movies and kind of all mix it together. So that's like my favorite comic of all time. But then like as a kid, like Superman the movie was huge, and then Smallville was huge too for me. And then like other characters too, like Green Lantern and like X-Men and Silver Surfer and Nightwing was one that I always loved growing up. So like there's definitely like I have in the Flash, there's a lot of like my favorites, you know, I have a lot of those.
And you've worked at DC primarily with the big two, but I don't remember you really working on Superman. Maybe in Trinity.
Yeah, I did stuff. I worked with Superman in Trinity, and there was during COVID there was like this digital line called Superman. I think it was called Man of Tomorrow. I did a story in that, and so like I've been peripherally involved with Superman. And then like Superman's been in like Green Lantern issues I've drawn, so like he's been peripheral around there. But like I'm dying to get my like Superman run, like that'd be so fun.
Get the first opportunity there.
Yeah.
So you've got a project out right now on Kickstarter called A Battle Chronicle Sol-Stryker Book What? I think there's less than a week left, right?
Yes, yeah. So the campaign ends on June 1st at 7:40 in the morning Eastern time. So we've got Kickstarter says 3 days left. I think it's like 4. I think it's more how they time it is odd how they do the countdown, but I think it's around 4 days left. But yeah, we're like 65% of the way there. So I'm hoping that anyone who hears about it will go and check it out, because this has been a passion project of mine for a very long time. I've been working on it for actively working on it for about 4 years, and like conceptually working on it for almost 10. So it's something that I'm really excited to get out into the world.
And there is going to be a link in the video description once this goes up on the YouTube channel, and we'll kind of get into more of the details later. But definitely, if you're interested in what V is selling here and his take on comic books and all that kind of stuff, definitely go check that out, because the art is spectacular. And the first time I really noticed you was in Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, specifically. Robert Venditti is my favorite writer. and he basically has been since I got into comic.
Awesome. Yeah.
Was he good to work with?
Oh, he was amazing to work with. He was absolutely amazing to work with. Robert is awesome. I can't say enough good things about him. Like the way he writes, like at least for me, it felt very much specifically tailored toward my strengths. And so like he's amazing. I love everything he did. I loved it. Like as a fan, I love that Green Lantern run. Like before I was like involved in it, and after I was involved in it, like I just read it as a fan. And then same thing with Hawkman. Like he's so good.
Yeah, I love his Hawkman too. But you got to do one issue specifically that in the past I've considered basically the perfect gateway to Green Lantern itself. If you've ever been interested in the character or maybe didn't understand what the Green Lantern Corps was or what made Hal Jordan special, I've always said Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps number 13, is that comic book that will literally open it up for you as you have like this older lady explaining to her grandchild essentially how Starro came to kind of take over their planet and how the Green Lantern Corps saved them. And I just loved it.
That's so cool to hear. I've heard that from a few people at cons and stuff that they really like that issue, and it's so funny because that was the first one I did, and I remember I was like hyped because Green Lantern is one of my like characters I just love, right? And like I remember getting the script and be like, Hal's like not even in this. Like I felt like almost like disappointed, you know. But it was just it's the story itself though is really cool. It really does touch on like what makes the Green Lanterns like so cool and like that metaphor of like being the light in the dark, you know, like it's like a very inspirational story. And like I love that one shot where the kid is like looking up and he sees like she sees the core of like all the Green Lanterns kind of like hovering over her. Like that was such a cool moment that Robert wrote in there for me.
Yeah, and it's absolutely awesome because eventually she's so inspired by the Green Lanterns that she becomes one herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it ends with that like statue of her. It's a very, very cool story. Yeah, I haven't gone back and read it in a while, but like yeah, that was definitely a very fun one to work on.
Yeah, if you want to see V Ken at his finest, and certainly Robert Venditti as well, that is one definitely to check out. I just really enjoy the concept behind that because if you read it within the concept or the continuity of Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps, it almost feels out of place because it's literally a one-shot, almost like entry point, but it's at issue 13.
Yeah, it is very cool. Yeah, it does stand out. It is kind of one of those like evergreen kind of stories.
Were there any other moments that you got to do? I know you did, I think, 4 other issues in Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps that really stood out to you that you worked on there?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the fact that I got to draw Kyle in like in my opinion, his real costume, his like all black 90s suit with like the gauntlets and the big crab mask. Like that was like, because when I was a little kid, I got that Hal Jordan action figure from the Super Friends line. But like when I started buying comic books, like in like 4th, 5th grade, the Green Lantern that I read was Kyle Rayner, and that was the era, the Daryl Banks, Ron Mars era, and like that's like my like comic book like heartstrings, you know. So like getting to draw Kyle, and they did so much different stuff with him over the years, like changes costumes, changes so much different, like they kind of
White Lantern
ways. Yeah. And like to see him come back to be a Green Lantern and also to be in that like super iconic 90s suit, like to me that like that's his identity. So like it was so cool to draw like the stories back and to draw the story where it was like his son, him and Soranik's son from the future who comes back in time and like tries to mess things up. It had like I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan, and it felt almost like an inverse of like Trunks, and like Trunks who's Vegeta's son from the future, but he's a hero. This one was the villain. So like that was just such a cool, like to be able to design that character and like draw, like create, essentially like co-create that character was so cool.
And your art style is like really slick, but you also kind of beef up the heroes. You always make them look super powerful. Is that something
Thank
like
you.
Dan Didio was like, dude, you're going to be perfect on Green Lantern?
I don't know. I mean, I hope so. My big artistic inspirations were, Jim Lee and Michael Turner were like my guys that made me want to draw. Like it was Batman. It was the middle of Batman Hush. It was the Ra's al Ghul issue. And then very quickly after that is when Michael Turner was doing the covers for Flash. And I saw that and I was like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. And then he started doing the Superman Batman run with Supergirl. And it was it for me. I was like, this guy's like the best, you know? And so my style's always been sort of like an amalgamation of like what I like about Jim Lee and Michael Turner, and like also like the anime I grew up with too. It's like kind of like infusing that kind of like hyperkinetic kind of anime stuff is like the dynamics of all that, like mixing all that together. So like guys like Joe Mad or Todd McFarlane like are huge influences to me as well. Yeah,
there's a lot of newer kind of comic artists. Jorge Jimenez jumps to mind. Sean Gordon Murphy, where you can see they're certainly inspired by American comic books, but they got that little manga flair to them, where everything's just a little bit more exaggerated, or that maybe it looks a little faster.
Yeah, that's like the big thing with like anime and manga is like the speed. Everything looks like it's moving constantly, and that's like something that American comics historically don't really do. You know what I mean? Like it's something that like when you think about like the really great American comic artists, you don't necessarily think of them as drawing like kinetically, and that's something that I'm really trying to focus on in my work is like making that like push those dynamics, you know. And it's easier said than done, right? Like it's something that's like it's a trick to try to make movement happen in like the static image, but it's definitely something like an endless pursuit of mine for sure.
So Joe Mad was also an inspiration to you. Was it his X-Men stuff?
Yeah, X-Men and Battle Chasers. Like Battle Chasers is awesome. Like I love that book so much. I'm a big like Final Fantasy fan, and Battle Chasers to me felt like his version of like a Final Fantasy book. And then like when I read more about it, it's like that's totally what it was. Like he was also a big Final Fantasy guy, and like you can so clearly see the influences of like the party, like having like everyone's got their own like kind of like unique thing, and like you know like it's just so imaginative and so like bombastic and like exploding with like imagination, you know.
Absolutely. Going back to Green Lantern, so you also did some issues of Green Lanterns, which was a story with Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. And I still think Jessica Cruz might have like the coolest new Green Lantern design ever. Like the Green Lantern symbol over her eye.
The patch. Yeah.
I just think it looks awesome.
Yeah, she's got great design. And so does Simon Baz. Like they both have like they're both like different, right? They're not just like the Hal Jordan suit with like the standard mask. Like they have like their own kind of like thing, and like the tattoo kind of look of the Green Lantern face over her eye. It is a very cool look. I did a thing where like I made her eyes white because like a lot of people draw them with the pupils, but I was like, no, I think she should have white because every Green Lantern's got like the white eyes, and that's kind of like her mask. So that was like my way of doing to make it look a little different. Same thing with Simon Baz. Like I made his like the point of his nose a little sharper and like gave him the white eyes too. I just thought it like made them look a little different from everyone else. Cause like as an artist, you're always trying to find the way that you make these characters look that looks different from how other people do it while also still keeping them on model. That might sound really weird, you know, but like, and like with Superman is a good example. Like for me, it's like in the hair and the cape is like ways you can like make him stand out from like how somewhat other people draw him, you know, just like changing the length of the cape or the way it rests on the shoulders or like how the hair like moves or is styled, you know.
What do you curl it the other way?
I tend to make it like spikier, like make it like more like sharper and like make the S like a more like a sharp S. Like in general, I tend to draw hair like that because that's like the anime thing with me is like I like drawing the hair that's like sort of like spiky angular shapes as opposed to like naturally like flowing like real hair, you know what I mean? I just think that like kind of abstraction of reality just looks really cool in like comics.
I always thought Simon Baz had like a little Phantom X to him, you know?
Yeah.
With the hood.
Like, in the design, yeah.
It was a pretty good series. I just don't understand why Jessica Cruz hasn't taken off. Like she was the most interesting new Lantern that they've introduced in the last 15 years.
Yeah, she's really cool. I mean, they don't have a book with her right now, do they? I'm not.
No, I mean, in the Green Lantern book, they are getting all the human lanterns together because the core has been corrupted by Theros, who took over the United Planets, and the human lanterns are the only ones fighting back. So at least we've seen her a little bit.
Yeah, and so it's all of them back together, like Cal, Kyle, John, all of them. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that's what like it's funny because I actually think that's when the Green Lantern Corps is at its the book, the concept is at its strongest, and I feel that way after really Robert Venditti's run. Like I feel like treating them more like the X-Men as like a team, like so it's like you're not like, well, this is going to be the Hal book and this is going to be the John book and we're restarting it now, guys. Like I think it works best and you serve all the fan bases when you make it like all of them, you know what I mean, like all 5 or 6 of them and just make them their own like team, you know. I think that's like such a cool different way to like approach the book while also serving all the fan bases and making everyone happy, you know.
That's the hard part, making everyone happy, because for a younger or maybe not even a younger generation, your generation it's Kyle Rayner. For an older generation it's Hal Jordan, you know, and for a younger generation they want it to be somebody else.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I remember because there is like a segment in there, so it's like if people who are slightly younger than me, like by 1 or 2 years, like John Stewart's their Green Lantern because of the cartoon, right? And that group thinks that like everyone thinks John Stewart's the main Green Lantern, but then like think younger than that, and like how the Ryan Reynolds movie and the cartoon came out, and like the New 52, and it was all Hal Jordan. So like even younger than them, it's Hal Jordan, and then so now like there's all these different. It like depending on when you got into it is like that's who your Green Lantern is. And I feel like the best way to sort of like satiate every fan base is to make it more of a team book,
The only person that's no one's Green Lantern is Guy Gardner.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge Guy Gardner fan. I think mainly because like the design, like I never liked his like vest. I just always thought it looked kind of like goofy, but
I didn't like the bowl cut, but now he's got a flat top.
Yeah. The bowl cut was pretty bad too. Yeah, but yeah, he was fun to draw though.
I always theorized that John Cena would be the perfect Guy Gardner, in live action. But they put him on Peacemaker. Like, what the heck?
He would. He looks just like Guy Gardner. It's funny. My colorist and my friend Andrew Dahlhaus, who's like one of like the best colorists in the industry, he always jokes with me that he always thought that Sean William Scott should have been Guy Gardner. I'm like, I mean, personality wise, I kind of see it, but visually, I don't. Not on there.
You'd have to hit the gym.
Yeah,
about 40 pounds. But I can see Stifler doing it.
Yeah, especially personality wise. Yeah. Yeah.
I love seeing Batman just knock the shit out of him. It was great.
Yeah. I love in Green Lantern Rebirth how Hal knocks the shit out of Batman. Like I always really appreciated that.
This is a great story. That's another thing when people are like, well, I kind of like Green Lantern. Like, where should I jump in? I was like, the perfect way to do Green Lantern, if you really want to jump in, understand everything that's going on there and you want some meat to it, go read Green Lantern Rebirth, go read Sinestro Corps War, and then finish it up with Blackest Night, and your mind will be blown.
Yeah,
so the perfect.
I mean, that whole Jeff Johns run though, all the stuff in between is so good too. Like the beginning of it, and then in between those arcs where they do like the Orange Lantern stuff. It's the whole thing's just great.
Yeah, another thing, speaking kind of to the quality of Robert Venditti as a writer, he is the only Green Lantern writer that's ever made me like Guy Gardner. When we finally had the big confrontation between him and the big Yellow Lantern guy, and they threw their lanterns off and just beat the crap out of each other for an entire issue.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, I kind of like him now.
Yeah. No, I like how they became like bros. Like him or Kilo was that character's name. Yeah, and there was that
respect.
Yeah. And there was that cool I got to do this image that was like a what if kind of future, and it shows Arkillo as a Green Lantern, all those Sinestro Corps characters as Green Lanterns. Was pretty cool.
Did you like the big moment in Blackest Night where everyone got their own lantern ring, whether it be like a blue lantern or star sapphires and red and all that stuff? That was great.
You mean when Barry became the Blue Lantern and
Superman's
cool.
a Blue Lantern and the Scarecrow's a Yellow Lantern.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, for sure. You got to see how the different characters who aren't part of Green Lantern, how they're with their dominant sort of emotional personality, what it attaches to, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Wonder Woman's the ultimate Star Sapphire. That's exactly what she should be.
Yeah, and Lex Luthor is the best Orange Lantern because he's just greedy.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about that's fan service. I was like, not all fan service is bad. Sometimes when you pay it off, it's awesome.
Oh, for sure, absolutely, for sure. Because you reading this stuff, you want the good payoff, you want your time and money invested in those big awesome moments that you remember.
Yeah. So another thing that you worked on while you were at DC, and this was kind of short-lived, but this is a character that I really like. Maybe Dan Didio and company went a little bit too hard with New Age of Heroes, maybe too many new concepts all at once. But I thought Silencer was really great. And I've always thought Dan Abnett was just a fantastic writer.
Yeah, that was a super fun book. That was because I came onto that. I think that was the end. I think I ended it. I think I ended the run on it. Yeah. But I got to do the Silencer origin issue where you see how her how she came to be as a kid growing up and stuff, which is pretty cool. And that character was was so cool, so cool and so much fun because she almost felt like a throwback to like a Sylvester Stallone, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, you know, like a Commando, a Cobra type character, where like she just like was like a kick-ass action hero, and like that was at the time for me really refreshing because like I had just been in the mode of like superhero for so long that like getting a character who just like was like just like balls to the wall, like kicking down doors and like firing machine guns and just martial arts and like just like pretty much every action trope you could throw in there was like, it was awesome. She was such a fun character, and I really wish they would bring her back and do more with her. Like she had a cool design too. She had like almost like a snake eyes kind of with like the visor and stuff. Very, very cool.
Yeah, she should have been DC Comics Black Widow. I was like, you got everything there. She's got really good motivation. She's got a husband and a kid, trying to keep it on the DL that she's got this family and stuff. Did it make it hard with her power though? Because her power basically is like she puts a cone of silence around her. And obviously comic books are more of like a visual medium. How do you demonstrate that?
That's the one thing where it's like, that was hard to do in comics. So like my whole thing with it was like trying to show like crazy stuff that should be making noise that like you'd see like a character like in the foreground who's not hearing it and it's like oblivious to it. You know what I mean? Like tables going over and like gunfire and everything. And then like people are just kind of like totally like not like
still washing the table off or
Still there was mopping. One scene where she was like in a restaurant and she's like tipping over tables and like just blowing stuff up. And they were like, people in the foreground that just like were like totally oblivious to like what was going on. But that was a challenge though, for sure. Like, so we did have to rely on the visuals, like the coloring of like her circle, like her ambient cones, the silence orbs and stuff.
Remember one of the artists, I think whenever she would do it, she would like put her hands to her lips.
She'd always do that. Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I like the New Age of Heroes stuff. I thought that was good. Damage was good, and then I really liked the Terrifics.
Sideways.
What was it like? You like Sideways? So that was basically their version of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I love Kenneth Rockford. I feel like he's like so imaginative. Like I feel like he's like one of the most imaginative like artists working right now. Like his just everything he draws is so pretty but so like different at the same time. You know, like and his work on like I thought Sideways was so cool.
Yeah, he's absolutely phenomenal. Really like Kenneth Rockford.
Yeah.
So do you think we'll ever get to see those characters again, or are they just to the ether? Obviously, other than the Fantastic, because you did have Mr. Terrific, not the Fantastic, it was the Terrific. So you had Mr. Terrific, Plastic Man, and Metamorpho. Yeah. So at least you had some characters people knew.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hope so, because like I think the new concepts, new ideas. Sorry, excuse me. And that's like. That was like a cool idea that Dan had, and I feel like because we were talking off mic about like when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, like there was so much like new, like that was like such like a big draw of like Image was like like Darkness and Witchblade and Battle Chasers and Fathom and like all these just like new concepts that. So I do think that if done like if they did bring them back and like had the right approach and the right creators working on it, I do think they could like definitely hit in a way that might work. I do think that investing in new IP and new properties would be beneficial in a lot of ways. Because like as we were talking about manga, like there's so much new in manga, and I think that's part of the draw is that getting on like not only getting on the ground floor, but just getting something different, like maybe similar tropes or similar ideas, or similar themes, but like with like new character designs and like new like ideas to attach to.
What was it like working with Dan? I know a lot of people think of Dan Abnett in comic books and they think of like cosmic stuff and Guardians of the Galaxy and Annihilus and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, Silencer was a more grounded character that did have a superpower, but more like a Black Widow type character. But I've just always thought he's phenomenal writing female heroes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, he was a joy to work with. And Silencer was one of those books, like for me, as just as an artistic, from an artistic point of view, like that whole line of the new Age of Heroes, where the approach with them was to do the Marvel style, which is like they wrote, like the writers wrote loose scripts, and then it was up to the artists to like basically break them down into like the panel layouts. I think they were broken into pages, if I remember correctly. It was like page one. It was like page one, this happens. Page two, this happens. Usually it's page one, panel one. This is what's going on. Here's the dialogue. Panel two, this is what's going on. But the way those books were written was like, page one, all this happens. Page two, all this happens. So that opened up my mind in like storytelling way, and it actually I prefer working that way now a lot. I really took to it. But yeah, because I actually worked with Dan on Titans as well, and so it is like because I saw both sides of it. He was great at doing both. Like he just wrote very much like to the artist's strengths, you know.
Yeah, his Titans book was good too, man. That was like
so good, yeah.
Like a love letter to Barry Allen. I'm sorry, Wally West when he came back.
West. Yeah,
so
that was my favorite run of Rebirth. That was so good. And Brett Booth, like, whew, he's my favorite. He's so good.
Yeah, I just I still remember reading DC Rebirth the first time when you get to the page where Barry finally remembers Wally and he comes back and he gives him a hug and he's like, I can't believe I ever forgot you.
Oh, dude, that was so good. I remember like because I was a fan who liked the New 52. I did like I still maintain like New 52 Superman is awesome. Like there's a lot about the New 52 that I did like, especially the visuals. Like I thought there's so many great artists working on the New 52, and that was like a huge draw for me. But like I do like because I've been a fan of DC from like way before that too. So like there were elements of like that I did miss, and Wally West was like the biggest one because Wally was like my dude. He was my Flash when I was growing up. So when he came back, it was like, yes, this feels like home now, you know? Like it just feels like home.
Yeah, and you get that moment, you know, you're a grown man, you're like, oh, this little dust around here. I don't know why I'm welling up right now. But it felt like a big moment.
Dude, that book I definitely remember tearing up reading that the first time. I was like, yes, it just felt like a warm blanket, you know, and like the new bringing Superman's personality back to like the more traditional idea of Superman, like all of it was like it was just great, you know.
Yeah, I was super excited about that, and I just love DC Rebirth. I'll just put that out there. I think almost the entire line was worth reading, but you get an awesome Aquaman run, really cool Titans run, 2 great Superman books at the same time, and then you get Super Sons afterwards. The Green Lantern books are really good. Nightwing is good in spurts, so there's a lot of good stuff going on at that time. Was that like exciting to be in there and working with all that talent?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was super exciting. Like right when I had started at DC, it was like I want to say maybe 6 months. It was like the Christmas after Rebirth launched, like they sent everyone DC Rebirth like blankets, like throw blankets. And I remember like it was like right when I started there, so I was like, oh, this is so cool, like being part of the team and getting the swag, you know, getting the flow, the blanket flow, you know. So that was really cool. And just seeing what everyone was doing, like I remember being so like jazzed about like seeing other people's work and at the same time being like, oh, I want to work on that too. Like being like I just want to like work on everything because everything was like so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like DC's kind of always been there since the beginning because of your dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love Marvel too. Like X-Men was huge for me growing up. Like especially that 90s version, like the Jim Lee, Andy Kubert, Joe Mad X-Men was huge. And like I said, Silver Surfer was huge for me too, and Spider-Man. But like the DC characters, like I feel like I've always gravitated toward them more. I've always found them, it might sound weird, but I've always found them a little more relatable. And I know that's like not the what people like to say about. Yeah, but like I don't know, man. Like I've always found Superman to be a very relatable character. I think when people say he's too powerful, like to me, like I never got that because like you don't attribute like why people find Spider-Man relatable isn't because he can like stick to walls, you know. It's like it's not the powers that make them relatable. It's like their personalities and their circumstances and like their sort of internal strength and spirit that you can see in yourself, but also like you could it inspires you to try to be like that as well, you know.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people talk about Superman. They're like, oh, he's such a hard character because he's so overpowered. He can never lose. It's like Superman's got a lot of stuff he can lose. He can lose Lois. He could lose, his parents. He could lose Smallville. He could lose Metropolis. He could lose his job. You know, he's got Jimmy Olsen sitting out there. There's lots of things you can put on the line or add stakes to with Superman. You know, and if you throw a little kryptonite or magic in there, you can even hurt him too. And I was like, you just have to have a thing or a situation that makes Superman say, the easiest way to do it would be to just do this, but that would hurt somebody. I'm going to have to do it the hard way and make sure that nobody gets hurt. And that's Superman.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think like, I agree with everything you just said, like, cause there's a lot of like emotional stuff you can use to like challenge Superman. But I also have for a while been saying this is that like, okay, I mean, like I said before, I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan and like Goku as a character way more powerful than Superman. Like if they fought, he'd dust Superman. Like there's like, but like you never hear he's an insanely popular character. Like, and you never hear people say he's too powerful because they create villains that are stronger than him. And so like for a while I've been saying like I do love those stories where Superman is challenged like mentally and emotionally, but I want to get back to the action comic part of Superman. Like I think we straight up, it's possible to make villains that could challenge Superman physically as well as mentally and emotionally, and like just really dial up the action. And because like Superman used to be the most powerful, used to be the most popular character like ever. Like think back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, he was like way more popular than Batman and everyone. So like I think the potential is there to bring him back to like being like the alpha dog status. But I think it would require a slight sort of reapproach into like the type of stories that you do with him, because I've said for a while that like I don't really need to hear or read another story of him like outthinking Lex Luthor for a very long time. Like I feel like that's been done, you know. Like so like I think we've got to switch it up a little bit, like because I feel like the common trope when I hear new people talk about Superman is like, well, this time Superman can't punch his way out. This time he's got to use his mind. And I'm like, that's like every Superman story I've read in the last like 20 years, you know? So like, I think you can bring in the action part of it and kind of meld the two and just kind of like, just dial up the fun aspect, you know?
Yeah. In the Golden Age, Superman might, threaten to throw a guy through a propeller blade on a plane to get some information, but he hasn't done that in a long time.
Yeah. No,
he doesn't punch anybody.
I don't know how that would play today if you went back to Golden Age Superman where he's just like like housing people, you know? Like
it was a great cover where Superman's like swooping down and Lois Lane I guess has used some call that she has that specifically to call him in here. He's like, "What did you need, Lois?" And she's like, "I broke my heel." I love the Golden Age covers. Those are the best for Superman.
Oh, or you mean the ones that have like the dialogue balloons on them? Like
yeah,
they
had like a scene in them. They were always they were nuts.
Yeah, and that's more like Silver Age, right? Where you had like the lion head and like the crazy, like just the wacky stuff that they were doing.
Yeah.
Like,
I miss those covers. Those are great. Now a cover is just art. It never tells a story anymore.
It's funny. I actually prefer the ones that are just like the badass shots of the characters. Like, and the reason being, is because when I was a kid, I'd go to the comic book store, and for some reason, I never went to the new issue rack. I always went to the back issues because like I thought they were worth more money or something like that. I don't know, but like I'd be digging through the backs, and the ones that had like just a clean, iconic shot of the character were always the ones that I would buy. If it was like, because I was always scared that I wouldn't get that in the book itself. So like, as long as I got it on the cover, I'd be like, okay, I'm good. Like this is like the one that I want, you know. But I see the appeal to both, you know. The storytelling covers definitely have a draw to them for sure.
I love it's Uncanny X-Men. I think it's in the 130s. I think where you got Wolverine is like in a river, like looks like he's dead, and the other members of the X-Men, and you have like the first member of Alpha Flight is there. It looks like he's killed them all.
Yeah. That's a good cover. Yeah, for sure.
That's the stuff that draws you in.
Yeah, I mean, I love that the Todd McFarlane with Wolverine with like the blades and the Hulk's like
the reflection.
Yeah, because that's like I feel like it's a blend between like an iconic and storytelling kind of thing.
It's teasing you that if you open this up, you're going to see Wolverine and Hulk go toe to toe.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Is Hulk one of those characters that you'd like to work on at Marvel?
Hulk, actually, Hulk is a character that I've never really had much connection with, really at all. Like, I never really read the book, and I never really had much merch from the Hulk, like the toys or anything. So, like, I don't really know too much about the Hulk. I feel like he'd be fun to draw because, like, you know, he's like a big, like, it's fun to draw like veins and shadow and cross hatching and stuff. So, like, he'd definitely be fun to draw. But as a character, I don't have like that sort of deep personal connection.
You don't have an inner monster? You can't relate to the character?
I don't think so. but that might be what a good thing though for me to draw it though, because it's come with a completely fresh take that would be beholden to stuff that's come before, you know.
Yeah, Hulk's cool, especially the time when, as he got more angry, he would get bigger,
Yeah,
more ferocious and stuff. It's always
yeah,
funny. You could see him. You could visually see him getting angrier. That's good
yeah,
storytelling.
yeah.
Is there like one specific book? I know you haven't. I'm not sure. Have you done any more at Marvel? I'm not really.
I have not. No. Yeah. So yeah, there's a whole
maybe
wide,
one day.
Yeah, no, there's a wide plethora of characters in Marvel that I would love to. I mean, X-Men. I would love to do something in the X-Men books. Like Nightcrawler and Archangel are like my two favorite X-Men, and and really just because they just look cool. Like when I was a kid, like I had their action figures, I just thought they looked awesome. And Archangel just like had the blades on his wings, and he just like, and in the comics he'd like shoot them out with, like daggers. Like I just thought he was like such a badass character. But like but as like the characters that like have like a cool story that I would like, if God willing, I love to like write and draw. Like Iron Fist is up there for me. Like I've done martial arts since I was like 5, so he was a character I always related to a lot in terms of not just like the cool martial arts aspect, but like his personality and stuff. I always thought was I thought he's a character that I think has like really untapped potential. Like I think he could be huge for Marvel. And then Silver Surfer is another character I loved. And again, the visuals, like I was always a kid who grew up skateboarding, and I just thought Silver Surfer like on the board was like so cool. Like that whole like skater aspect, like even though that's not his character really, like he doesn't like talk like, hey dude, like he doesn't have that like personally at all, but like just the visual of him as like surfing around, I just thought was so cool. And like the fact that he's got like cosmic power, and then he's like this really enlightened like person, you know what I mean? Like he's very like stoic. He's very like he knows, like he always walks the higher path and is like very altruistic and noble. And I think those are like aspects that are very aspirational to these characters, because there's so many characters who aren't that way. They've got so many flaws, and I like that he's sort of this kind of like, he's unique in that way. Like he's like kind of this like perfect being, like,
he's the harbinger of death.
No, but no, he's forced into that though. It's like when he breaks. Also, my connection with Silver Surfer is like the '90s one. He's like way past the.
He's escaped.
Yeah.
You don't think they should have reconfigured the character maybe in the late '80s, early '90s when Tony Hawk got big and became a celebrity? Next thing you know, he's popping 720s, and he's more powerful the cooler the stun he hits.
I mean, that would be sweet. I feel like a lot of fans would eye roll at that, but like, I love that stuff though. Like in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, when Andrew Garfield's skateboarding, I know a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, this is lame." I'm like, "This is cool. This is exactly what I would do if like I had spider powers. This is like to a T. This is what I would do." So I don't know. I've always appreciated stuff like that.
Next thing you know, like Silver Surfer's grinding off of like the Orion belt and stuff, and
across the
Ollie
spaceship he's fighting. Yeah.
Be pretty good. I love Nightcrawler as well, by the way. That's my favorite X-Men character. Not only does he look cool, he's got the best personality. He looks like a demon, but he's got the heart of an angel. Mm-hmm. He's very true to himself. He's not easily manipulated. What he thinks is right. He basically stands by his convictions, never goes on the easy path, anything like that. But also, when you played the X-Men arcade game, the Six Topper, he was the one that could bounce around the screen.
Yes, exactly. Dude, that is the reason I liked Nightcrawler when I was a kid. It was that X-Men arcade game. And like, I got his action figure. I didn't know much about him. I just thought he looked cool and he did the zippy thing, right? And then when I started reading the books, I was like, this guy's awesome. Like, because I'm Catholic. I've got all that whole aspect of his personality, the whole Catholic part. Like, I was like, oh, I totally relate to this. And then like, also, like you're saying, like he looks like a demon, but he's got the soul of like an angel. And he's like what I just say about Silver Surfer. He's like this very altruistic, very noble. Like he's like the heart of the X-Men. Like, and really to me, like Marvel Universe, he's kind of like the heart of the Marvel Universe. Like he always would know like the right thing, and like I just think he's like so cool.
Yeah, it's too bad. You don't really get much with the character like on solos. I know we've gotten, I think, like 3 miniseries maybe over the life of the character, but I don't know. Like, maybe it's because he's blue. Maybe he's not marketable.
I think that's what makes him cool, though. The blue skin definitely makes him cool. Like, and like the vampire fangs and everything. Like, he just looks very cool looking character.
It's definitely a great design. But yeah, those X-Men books, especially if you start reading the '90s and you got like Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and like the who's who of amazing artists that you could get your hands on at the time.
Yeah. Oh, it was like mind blowing, and like they were all like so cool. Like that was the thing. Like all the characters, like I mean, you know, like Havoc and Wolverine and Gambit and Rogue and like Archangel and like an Iceman and like who else was there? Like Cable. Yeah, Beast. Like there's so many just like visually cool, striking characters. They all had like a cool power, and they were all like badass. And like that was like just as a kid, like as like a 7-year-old, like reading those books, it was like this speaks to me, you know.
So you're more of a team book guy?
I do like the team books. Yeah, I mean, I never really like thought too much about it, like until you just asked me, like if I prefer solo or team book. But I think there was like kind of more, I guess like the team books inherently would have more of a family sort of aspect to them, you know. And I think like with anime too, like Dragon Ball Z, for example, like there's like this family aspect of like a group that I think is very appealing for sure.
Yeah, I grew up with 2 brothers, and you know, I was a latchkey kid. It was just the 3 of us until our mom got home from work or whatever. And we beat the crap out of each other. We weren't very nice to each other all the time, but we loved each other. So whenever I see a good team book and they're bouncing off each other, and you're like, man, this guy Gardner's just a dill hole. It makes me like the book more. I like a good team book.
Yeah, team books are great for sure. Like, and I think it gives you like more personality dynamics too. Like you can see more shades of the characters' personalities when they're not just talking to themselves, but they're like, we've got more people to like bounce stuff off of, you know?
Yeah, and you get the chance to put some deep-seated hatred between 2 characters, and then one of them has to save the other one, and you get the begrudging respect, you know, kind of like was it Guy Gardner and Archilo?
Archilo, yeah.
Totally. Those are great moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the stuff that makes comics work, like the melodrama, you know?
Yeah. That's why X-Men's always been such a great book and was for such a long time. So is there any like team dynamics or X-Men kind of angles to Battle Chronicle Sol-Stryker book 1?
Yes, actually. X-Men is a huge influence on it. Like what I was just saying was about like all the characters being so cool. That was something that I wanted to bring to this project, was like I want like on the surface, like anyone who looks at this book, they'd be like, oh, these characters look really cool. And then when you read it, you're like, wow, like my goal is that everyone who reads it, one of these characters is going to be their new favorite character. And like, we just like that whole like found family and like a team that, you know, doesn't gel quite right at first, but they kind of have to come together to like for a common goal. Like all those sort of tropes are not tropes, but like the themes are kind of rolled into it. And it's definitely something that was a huge inspiration to the book for sure.
So you've been thinking about this project for a decade at this point?
Yeah. Right when I graduated college, I was trying to obviously get work in the mainstream, but like I was also thinking like, well, what would I want to draw? And I had like monsters and like vampires, werewolves, stuff like that. Growing up as a kid, like always scared me. So when I was like a little kid, like the way I would like cope with that, like if I saw like a Dracula movie or something, I'd be like, well, Superman could be Dracula. Like that's, you know what I mean? So that kind of right. So that always sort of stuck in my head. And so like I came up with this idea of a superhero that fought monsters. And my original idea was very based like in Arthurian legend. It was like this character has the Excalibur sword, and it's made out, it harnesses solar matter, and he goes around fighting vampires and monsters and werewolves, kind of like the show Supernatural. And I started talking to my writing partner, Jason Matthews, about it, and we were like kicking this idea around, and I started getting more work in the mainstream, and the idea just kind of went to the back burner. And about in 2018, I started picking up video games again. I started with Legend of Zelda, the new Legend of Zelda, and then I jumped into Final Fantasy 15, and I was like, I was like, wow, I love these video games. And like at the same time, I started rewatching like the anime that I loved growing up. So like Ronin Warriors, Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z, like all of it. Like I started just re-experiencing all of this stuff like at the same time, like around 2019. And I called up Jason, and who we hadn't talked for a year or so, and I was like, dude, you remember this character, the sun? Like I think we can like change it up. Like I have this idea to make it into like an RPG style story, and like more anime influence, more like make it, instead of making it about one character, make it like a team of characters, and we can get like a lot of like sort of unique ideas and voices for each one of them. And like and just sort of like expand the whole story out and like make it take place in a fictional world, like basically like do our version of the Final Fantasy like type story in comic books. And he's a really big like Lord of the Rings and tabletop RPG fan, so he was all down with that. He was like, oh, this sounds great, yeah, let's do it. And so we started reworking the idea, and yeah, in 2019 is when we started to like basically like writing it. I started doing the character designs. It was just a slow process of doing it like on top of like the normal work, you know. Yeah, that's how we got to here.
Very nice. So the project, how far along are you? How many pages is this going to be? Is it a full trade paperback?
Yes. So the first book is going to be 52 pages of story with 12 pages of behind the scenes content. So the book is going to be 64 pages, and it's going to be a pretty thick book. And it's going to be, this is going to be book one. Obviously, we have it mapped out to be, depending on how successful we are and like what the interest is, and you know how we go forward. We have a plan for about 12 of these. Now that could be we could scale it back, we could expand it. Like there's parts in the story where we can kind of be malleable. But yeah, we have like this whole big sort of story planned out. And for this first book, it's all written obviously, but then all 52 pages of mine are drawn, and we still need to color and letter and do the production stuff. And yeah, we're super excited about it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
And the colorist is Andrew Dahlhaus, who, if
yes,
you're a comic book fan, you've definitely seen Andrew Dahlhaus's work because he's worked everywhere.
Yeah, no, Andrew's amazing. He's like one of the best colorists in the industry, and I'm so lucky to have him on this. And he's been kind of very instrumental since the beginning, like because I've been friends with him for years, and we've worked together at DC, and I've been bouncing whenever I came up with a new idea. I'm like, dude, check this out. And he's like, oh, this looks cool, because he likes the same kind of stuff I like, and he's been a good sounding board for getting it off the ground. And I was also lucky enough to get some really awesome variant cover artists. We got Brett Booth, Joe Benitez, and Sue Lee all doing variant covers for us. So yeah, I'm super stoked about it. It's like a very like me and Jason, when we talked about doing this is probably the most indie of indie projects possible. It's like literally the two of us making it and like paying for it all up to this point. Like it's literally us doing it, but we wanted it to look as though it's like the most big budget mainstream book out there. So we wanted to be able to hang on the shelves next to like Batman and X-Men and like Spawn and like the Ghost Machine books and all of it. You know, we wanted to look like as like big and good and awesome as possible.
Now, you've mentioned Jason's name quite a few times. He's the writer of the book. It sounds like you guys have been friends for a long time.
So we're co-writers. Yeah, we're both writing it. It's a collaborative effort. Yeah, we met right when I got out of college. He actually hired me to work on his creator-owned comic way back in 2010. So we've known each other for a very long time, and we've become really good friends, obviously. And we have he's a little older than me, so like where my kind of nostalgia pool that I'm drawing from is the 90s. He's kind of drawing more from like the 80s, like the 80s cartoons, like late 80s. So this book has equal parts of like late 90s anime, Toonami era mixed with like 90s style comics mixed with like 80s cartoons, kind of like all rolled into one.
And he's an Air Force vet, but he's also a comic shop owner. He's a vet, and he was in the Air Force, and he has a store called Stacks and Games in Massachusetts. He's got I think it's like a comic store and like hobby store and like Legos and stuff like that. So he's been very into comics his like whole life, and this is like something he's really wanted to do for a long time. So does he have a Boston accent? Does he say no ma?
No. He does not.
Very nice. So if you're interested in Battle Chronicle Sol-Stryker Book 1, as I said, there's a link in the video description. You've got a very short amount of time left, and you're almost to the finish line. What happens if you don't quite make it there? Are you guys going to try and fund it again, or look for other distribution?
Yeah, so making comics is really expensive. We have a pretty high goal. Our goal is 40,000, but that literally is like what it takes to make it. We're not like looking for extra money. It's like literally like we've done the budgets like frontwards and backwards, and that's literally like to afford the shipping and the production, paying everyone to work on it. Like that's what we need. So So we're currently assessing, because we obviously, if it does not make a school, we don't want it to like go away. So we're currently assessing different ways to do it. Maybe a black and white version, maybe digital only at first, like maybe like a Patreon type thing. We're looking at different options right now, but we're really hoping that we make our goal, because like I really want it to be a physical, like full color, like I said, big budget book. Like that's the goal and that's the dream. And if this is something like, I'll read the description for it, but like if you are someone who grew up in the 90s or the 2000s, if you love like Wildstorm books, Top Cow books, 90s X-Men, if you watched Toonami, if you played like RPG games like Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger, like if this is like your jam, then please go and check this book out, because this is like, we're taking the love of like all of that stuff, combining it into a story that feels modern and relevant, but like also really heartfelt, tons of action. Like if you yearn for the comics and the cartoons of your youth, this is definitely the book that you're going to want to check out, because it is like my love letter to all this stuff, while also being like we're taking it very seriously. Like this is not a parody of that stuff, or like a homage. Like it is a new concept that we're taking very seriously with these brand new characters. Each one has their own unique perspective and character arc that they go on, and it's going to be like a lot of fun for sure.
If people are interested in backing, is there like one particular tier that they should go and look at that maybe has the best value or the coolest stuff available within the campaign?
Yeah, so there's 8 different variant covers. I drew 5 of them. And then Brett Booth, Adelsa Corona, and Andrew Dahlhaus did one. Joe Benitez and Beth Sotelo did another one, and then Sue Lee did the other one. And then there's a special chase variant, which is like it's our princess character. Her name's Princess Roxy Sakai. It's like a pin-up kind of like sexy Baywatch cover. That's our chase variant. It's an homage to like like the posters that we had on our walls when we were teenagers. And that's you can only get that as a standard cover in the like all V Ken Marion pack, which is my 5 covers, or the all cover pack, which is all 8 covers. And then all the covers are also available as metal covers as well. We have hollow foils on 3 of the covers, and we also have apparel. We have t-shirts and hats. We have a sticker and a metal print, metal bookmark merchandise set, and we have original art as well. So I'm putting up of all the preview pages I put up, all the original art for those are for sale, as well as 3 of the covers. And what else am I missing here? I feel like I'm missing something else. Oh, and commissions. There's also a tier if you want to get a commission from me that comes with a bunch of the covers. And I believe, let me just double check really quick here. It comes with a bunch of the covers and a commission from me, which would be the character of your choice. So all that stuff's available. And I appreciate anyone that wants to go and check the book out and give it a support. Like I said, we're close to our goal, and we really do appreciate all the support. Yes, and I look at it right now. Any of the commission, any of the original art tiers, but any of the commissions come with all 8 of the covers and a special metal trading card that's only available with the original art tiers. So if you get a commission, you get all 8 covers and the metal trading card as well as the commission.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned earlier about like Superman versus Dracula, and recently we did have a DC versus vampires book. And as a comic fan, sometimes you do have to suspend your ability of disbelief or whatever, because there's literally no way Superman can become a vampire. If a vampire actually penetrated his skin, which I don't think is possible, if they accidentally did it, he's literally got UV rays pumping through his entire body. He would disintegrate them immediately. Yeah. Correct?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Dracula ain't no threat to Superman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, in our book, like a big theme, it's called Sol-Stryker. A big theme of it is like the sunlight versus shadow, right? And so you can see the Superman influence in there, and also the Green Lantern. But like, yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to give you like the overall kind of like story of like what the book is about for your listeners who might be interested. So like the pitch is that as war erupts across the battle-scarred land of Impera, the reluctant Princess Roxy Sakai and her rookie Sol-Stryker knights must band together to reclaim their kingdom and combat the Fomorian armies of Dracul that threaten to cast their world into eternal darkness. On their journey, they'll reconcile truths from a concealed past, master mysteries of the Solar Key, and unite people of disparate nations as they fight to bring salvation to their world. And so it really is like a military war story set in this fantasy world between humans, who is this nation, who have kind of sort of rallied around this nation called Hikari, where the royal family of this kingdom has mastered this energy called the Solar Key. And in this world, there's two different keys that kind of give life to their world. It's the Solar Key and the Shadow Key. And it's this historically been a harmonious sort of like one with in balance with the other. And this kingdom of Hikari, in the Shadow Key, this other race of creatures called Fomorians. So it's like vampires, werewolves, demons, gargoyles, this basically monstrous like creatures that they hunt people, they kill people, they eat people, and they're at war with each other. And in this world, Hikari has mastered the Solar Key, and Fomorians are these immortal beings of the night, and their only real weakness is sunlight. So Hikari's weaponized sunlight, and they've basically monopolized the planet, and they've kind of pushed the Fomorians into poverty, and they're very disenfranchised. They're very much like they see Hikari as like oppressors to a certain degree, right? And so, but from Hikari's point of view, they are very much feel threatened and oppressed by Fomorian, these monster creatures that are killing their people, killing humans. Like basically, if they weren't there, they'd run like roughshod all over the planet and just basically like take it over and make it this like monstrous like hellscape, right? So they're in this conflict between where each side sort of feels like they're justified in their right in what they're doing. And our heroes, as the battle comes to, the war literally comes crashing onto the doorstep of Hikari. This group of their elite soldiers called Sol-Strikers, our main protagonist group, are kind of thrown into this conflict. They're rookies. They've been told their whole lives the Fomorians are the enemy, that they're evil, and they're thrown into this conflict. And they're it follows them in their journey to see like, well, what if our side isn't always right, and what if their side isn't always wrong, and vice versa. There's going to be Fomorian characters who kind of feel the same way, and there's our main heroes have to kind of go out and find like they go on the path to see how can we bring about true peace for everyone, how can we save this world for everyone and not just for the institution that we've been told to fight for. And so there's a lot of esoteric ideas, but it's also a lot of like just action-packed action, like knights and samurai like characters fighting like Dracula and like creatures of the Black Lagoon and gargoyles and stuff. So there's a lot of like heady concepts, but also a lot of like fun, like just action. So I'm hoping there's a little something for everyone in the story.
It certainly sounds like there's a lot of heart and soul that you've put into the book. And I will tell everybody, if you haven't seen V's art yet, go check it out for yourself. Go get a little sample of it, and you're going to want to go check this out on Kickstarter because he is a phenomenal artist. Obviously, we've got some really cool superhero manga influences on this. Congratulations on the campaign. Hopefully, we're able to make it there in time, but I know that you're going to see this through in the end. And I really did appreciate you coming on here talking for the first time.
Oh, thank you, Wes. I really, really appreciate the time that you give me to come and talk. And it's been great to hang out and meet you. And I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.